Hi everyone, welcome to my live creative time today. My name's Mandy Witherby from Mandy's Papercraft Creations and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Sydney, Australia. Welcome to another week of creativity. I have got a really pretty card to share with you today and we're going to make a fun fold card today. So I hope you will enjoy this. All right, now before we jump in, I'm going to just bring this live up on my other devices so that I can see everyone's comments there who are joining me live. So bear with me while I just get this all set up. Okie dokie. Okay, that's one, and let's get the other one up. That's two. Okay, everything is set up, good to go. So as you're jumping on, say hi, let me know that you are here. Let me know where you're watching from if this is your first time with us today. And we always like to welcome new people to come and join us and enjoy the fun. Now, if you are watching this live today, you're going to see the red live button. It's up this side, up in the top left-hand corner of the screen. If you don't see that, then you are watching the replay. Thank you to all of you who are here live. Thank you to all of you coming back and watching the replay. Thank you to all of you watching over on my YouTube channel. So because I film this live, we do like to have a little chat first before we jump into the creating, because if we were joining, if we were gathering live to create, we always chat when we gather to create, don't we? So we like to do that here as well. So if you're watching the replay and you don't want to listen to the chat, that is totally fine. Feel free to fast forward through. You might miss some important information though, but that is totally up to you. Feel free to fast forward through to the creative time. And there you go. You'll be all good. All right. Now it seems that Facebook has still not fixed the flip screen thingy. So it looks like while the camera is facing me, you are still going to see everything back to front. So I apologize for that. And I'm just having a look down the bottom to see if there is anything new since we filmed. No. Since we filmed live last time, I was just having a look to see if there was any new icons, any new tools that I could flip the screen, and it doesn't look like I can. So I can flip the whole camera, but that doesn't help me because the other camera is on the other side of the phone. So, but anyway, that's okay. We will continue what we've been doing the last couple of weeks. Hey Rose, how are you? Lovely to have you with us today. Thanks for joining. So I will share a few things with you first, and then we'll get into our creative time. So on Saturday, we had a fantastic class. We had a card buffet class on Saturday, and had some lovely ladies come along, and everybody was whipping up a storm and crafting away. They each made 4 cards. We had 8 cards and then 2 kits as well that they could choose from, so a total of 12 cards in total that they could choose from to create. And they all chose 4 different ones to choose, 4 different ones to create. And we had a lovely afternoon. So it was a really fantastic class. Everybody really enjoyed themselves. They gave me fantastic feedback. So I was very thankful for them coming along, and just grateful that I was able to offer a fantastic fun afternoon for them. And we had a yummy afternoon tea. My daughter Amber had baked for us, and we had beautiful ginger slice with lemon icing, and we also had some Anzac cookies as well. So that went down very well with a nice cup of tea. Yeah. Hey Fran, how are you? Lovely to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us today. So yeah, so we had a really fantastic class. Sorry, I've got an itchy eye all of a sudden. Yeah, and then yesterday was church in the morning, and then church again in the afternoon because we had a special event. And then in between there was a nap because I hadn't slept well, so it was very, I was very tired. And then we've been getting ready for another council cleanup. So yeah, getting a few things together that we need to get rid of, and continuing to get my new class studio set up. So been clearing more things out of there, and now we are just about ready to start setting up the tables in there and working out the space. So I'm very excited for my new class area. So that's going to be really, really great. Still a little bit of work to do in there, but we are getting closer and closer to having that ready for classes. So very exciting. All right, well, let me share a few things with you before we jump in. Now, what I hold up for you is going to be back to front because, as I said, the camera hasn't flipped yet. I might also share them with you when we go down on the desk during our creative time as well. But I wanted to let you know about my next class that is open for registration right now. I am going to post up the, now let me actually have a look and see. Did I grab the link for that? It is open for registration, but yes, I did. Fantastic. All right, so I've got the link here for this one. My next class that is open for registration is going to be on Saturday the 8th of March, and it's going to be a 2 p.m. class, starting at 2 p.m. It is Storybook Moments technique class. So we are going to be using the very beautiful Storybook Moments suite, and we're going to be using some techniques in that. We're going to be doing some distressing techniques, all different sorts of distressing techniques in that class using that beautiful suite of products. So that you're going to receive some products in that class. Some of that you'll use to create your projects on the day, and then you'll have leftovers as well to take home to create more projects at home. So it is the registrations close on the 22nd of February, so you've got a little bit of time, but in saying that, once seats are filled, the class will close. So if seats fill earlier than that, I will close the class off. Okay, so we're going to be, as you can see here, if you are good at reading backwards, back to front, then you'll be able to read this. But it says, explore a variety of distressing techniques as we create using Storybook Moments Suite. And of course, afternoon tea is provided. So you will be able to register for that one right now, and I will put the registration in the links. Hey Julie, how you going? Great to have you with us. I will put the registration in the comments right now, and then when I upload this to YouTube, I'll make sure that the links are all there for you as well. So you can register for that one right now, and using that beautiful Storybook Moments suite from the new mini catalogue. If you haven't seen that, actually, I didn't grab my catalogues out. Let me grab my catalogues. We usually have them out before we go live, but I was rushing today. We had some unexpected guests pop in, so I was just running a little bit late. So this is the Storybook Moments suite. So there's the beautiful papers there. So that's what we're going to be creating with. If you want to check them out a bit more closely, you can look at your mini catalogue on pages 24 and 25, or you can look for Storybook Moments Suite in the online store. That's what we're going to be creating with for that class, and using those distressing techniques. So we're going to be including some product, as I said, in that class. So we'll give you everything that you need to be able to create the projects, plus more. So very exciting. So be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out my class on that one. So if you're local, if you are in Sydney, people come to me from all over Sydney. So if you are in Sydney and you would like to come, or if you're visiting Sydney, then feel free to register as well. If you are having a holiday, you're passing through and you'd like to come and join us for a class, then feel free to do that. All right, so that is the first notification. So we have, Stampin Up has a couple of new kits that released last week after I filmed my live. I think they released on the Tuesday, so the very day after. But we have the So Much to Celebrate kit. So I know all the words are backwards, but don't worry about that. Just look at the projects. Now this kit has 3 different projects in it, 3 different cards. This is only showing one of them. So you have to go to the online store to check out the other ones. They are beautiful. It's a non-stamping kit. So it is great for everybody. It's really a beautiful kit. But if you are not a stamper, or you want to purchase a kit for somebody who perhaps hasn't done card making before, this is a great one to purchase. But yeah, this is just one of the beautiful projects, but there are 2 other ones as well, and I think you get to create 3 of each. I think there's 9 cards, not enough product for 9 cards in the kit, from memory. So yeah, so check that one out. And oh my goodness, this other beautiful one, it's called Heirloom Arrangements Kit. And I don't even think this flyer will fully appreciate how beautiful these projects are. So make sure you definitely go and check this one out in the online store as well. Heirloom Arrangements. This one is gorgeous. You've got all these beautiful butterflies and like ephemera type pieces, tags. The card bases all come with them. Envelopes come with both of those kits as well. They're fully inclusive. They have everything in the kit that you need to create the projects. This one, if you like a little bit more freedom with your projects that you're creating, this is a great one because you get lots of different little pieces. There is some basic guidelines in the instructions, but then basically you can do what you want with this kit. This one has step-by-step instructions for each of the projects. Okay, so if you prefer a guided sort of experience, this is a great one. If you prefer a little bit of guidance, but then a little bit more scope to be able to do your own thing, then this one is great too. But this is so pretty. Look at those. So gorgeous. So check those out in the online store. I think this one is definitely going to be the Heirloom Arrangements. That one's going to be a really popular one. Okay. Now you might know that we have Sale-A-Bration at the moment, and it is ending. Where have I put my brochure? It is going to be ending at the end of the month, the 28th of February. What month are we? February. So Sale-A-Bration. With Sale-A-Bration, if you're uncertain of what Sale-A-Bration is, maybe you haven't seen it before, when you're placing an order in a single purchase, if you place over $100 in your order, you'll get to choose a free Sale-A-Bration item from this brochure. So there's a whole stack of different products in here. There's stamp sets, there's embellishments, there's embossing folder, ribbon, there's even if you're placing a larger order, there's even a stamp and die set as well. So definitely check that out. It's a great time. If you've had a wish list, or perhaps you're just getting started as well, it's a great time to go shopping, or even just stocking up on some of your staple products like your adhesives and envelopes and cardstock and all those things. Yeah, do it before the end of February, and you can choose something from the Sale-A-Bration brochure as a free item. So that's a really great offer. Now also too, Stampin' Up has brought out a second release of Sale-A-Bration items. So they've, not only do you have the brochure to choose from, you've now got these additional items to choose from. Now I know here in Australia, the alphabet a la mode is currently unavailable. So I'm not sure when that's coming back in. I didn't actually check this morning to see, but I think it still is. I'll just quickly log in and double check just to see. Maybe they came in. They might have come in this morning, perhaps. Oops, hang on a minute. Let me do that again. Sometimes my fingers go faster than my brain when I'm typing. Do yours do that? Yeah, so there's all these additional items. I just I had to put in an order for another class that's coming up, and I was able to choose the butterfly stamp, and I of course added some extra items on there that I needed as well. Yeah, so I got the butterfly stamp set, so that one's going to be coming, so I'll be able to show you that one in a couple of weeks. Now let me just see, where are we? Inventory status report. How many more weeks have we got? We've still got, after today, I've still got 2 more Mondays. So I'll still have 2 more Mondays to show you some of these beautiful products before they go. The alphabet a la mode, yeah, is due in hopefully next week, all being well with shipping and etc. So sometimes they come in a little bit earlier, sometimes the shipping can get delayed, but yeah, that's the expected date, is next week. So yeah, so look out for that. But yes, there is other things as well on there, so definitely go and check that out. Lots and lots of great things for you to choose. Okay, now Sale-A-Bration is also a great time to join Stampin' Up as well, because they always offer additional things or additional products or additional value on top of the usual joining the starter kit on top, because when you purchase the starter kit anytime, you already get $166 worth of free product built in to the starter kit, plus you get free shipping as well. So you pay $169. You get to choose up to $235 worth of product. So that's the usual offer. But during Sale-A-Bration until the end of February, there are 2 additional options that you can choose. So option 1 is you will receive a free stamp set, which we are going to craft with today. I've got some great ideas with that one today to share with you. Plus, you get to choose 2 of the sets of markers. Now, the sets of markers, they come in the color families. So we've got the brights, the regals, the subtles, and the neutrals. I always forget that one, the neutrals, which is funny because they're the ones I love. So you get to choose 2 of those sets. So when you get all of that, that is an additional, so that plus your, all of that is $286. On top of your starter kit value is a total of $397 worth of product, and you're only paying $169, and you're going to get free shipping on top of that as well. So that is a fantastic offer, full of value. But if you're not interested in that, then you can choose option 2, which is an additional $51 of product of your choice to put into your starter kit. So instead of $235, you get to choose $286 worth of product in your starter kit. So we're going to play with this stamp set and some markers today, and I'm going to show you a few techniques how to use these markers. There's lots and lots of great things you can do with these markers, and so many that I can't even show you them all today, but I will show you a few different techniques for using those Stampin' Write markers. So we're going to create with those today so that you can kind of see, you know, what you can do with them, because you can do more than just color your stamped images with them. So if that is something that you are interested in, then please feel free to let me know. I do have a QR code there, which does work back to front, apparently. It's been tested. So if you would like to join my team, there is a QR code there. If you open up photos on your phone or your mobile device, you can scan that QR code. That'll take you straight through to my joining page. But if you've got more questions and you're not quite ready or you're not quite sure, then please feel free to get in contact with me if you would like to more information about joining my team. You might like more information about what I offer my team, the sorts of things that we do together and all that sort of thing. Then please feel free to get in contact with me and ask me. You can send me a private message. You can email me. You can contact me via my website, which is here, which is back to front, mandywitherby.stampinup.net. Yeah, feel free to get in contact with me. All right. Hi, Glenda. How are you? How was your weekend? Great to have you here. Now, has anyone got anything to share with me today? What did you get up to on the weekend? Did you do any crafting, or did you do some other exciting things? Did you go out for any yummy meals, or do anything special? Let me know in the comments. All right. Well, I am going to flip the camera while you are comment. Keep chatting. I'm going to flip the camera while we're doing that. Okay, we're going to jump in and keep going where we're up to. I was explaining this beautiful stamp set that you can get as part of the joint offer during Sale-A-Bration. So this is the Handmade Designs stamp. We've got some beautiful line art designs here with these florals. So we've got a pot plant and a beautiful flower here. So these work great with your Stampin Write markers, which I have some of mine out here. I don't have all of the colours, but I've got some of mine here ready to use. In fact, I've already chosen the colours that we're using today. And then you've got a couple of really nice sentiments, and then you've got this beautiful handmade by stamp that you can stamp on the back of your cards, and then you can write your name so people know who have made the card, which is especially great for if you're giving like a pack of cards to someone, or if you're selling your cards, or even just to have like your little signature on your projects. So it's a red rubber cling stamp. I've only got 2 in there because the others are all mounted up ready on my blocks ready to use. So I've got the beautiful red rubber. I've put the stickers on there so it makes it easy to line them up, and it's just a really beautiful stamp set. All right, so as I said, the markers and the stamp set are part of the current joint offer during Sale-A-Bration. So you can choose those for free. You can choose 2 sets of the markers, as I mentioned in my first video. And you'll get the stamp set as well. Now that will be valued at $162 for 2 sets of markers and the stamp set. You'll get them absolutely free if you choose option 1 when you join during Sale-A-Bration. Plus you're going to get to choose $235 worth of product, and you're only going to pay $169. So it's a really great time to join. All right, so would you like to see what we're making today? Okay, so this is the beautiful card that we are making today. Using the Handmade Designs stamp set and our markers, and it is actually a little pop-up card. It's a Easel Fun Fold Card. So I'm going to show you how to create this one. I've got everything ready to go. So inside here you've got a section where you can stamp your sentiment or hand write your sentiment. You can even hand write your sentiment with your coordinating markers and have everything color coordinated, which is great. And it'll send fairly flat. Of course, you've got layers here. I've got things mounted up on layers, and then it can be displayed like that. So it kind of sits up like a little triangle there. Okay, so that is what we are going to create. I'm going to show you how to stamp and color the flower with your Stampin' Write markers. We're not stamping the flower with the markers. We're stamping that with Memento, but we're going to color with the markers, and then we're going to stamp the sentiment with the markers. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and I've got an extra technique to show you as well. So there's 2 different options that you have for doing your image. Okay, I'm going to show you both ways. Okay, so I've got all of my bits and pieces all ready to go. That one is for, oh yeah, that one's for the inside as well. So I've got all my pieces here. Now I won't waste time going through all of the measurements now, and because we've had so much trouble with the technology, I'm running behind. So I will put all of the measurements on my blog tomorrow. So I'll post a photo up of the card and then put all the measurements on the blog, and I'll link that through so that you know where to find things. All right, so first of all, we want to stamp our sentiment, our flower, so that we can get going with that. So we're going to start with this white piece here. I'm going to just bring in a little bit of grid paper today because we have done, so we're doing some colouring techniques just on the flower. I have coloured my twine. This is Baker's twine, and I've coloured my twine also using the Stampin Write markers. And then I have stamped the sentiment using the Stampin Write markers. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now the colours I'm using today, so I'll pop my card over there. The colours we're using today are Highland Heather and Fresh Freesia. They are both from the Subtles colour range. And then I've got the Granny Apple Green, and I think that one is from the Brights. I'm going to have to grab my catalogue to just double check that. I always forget if Granny Apple Green is with the Brights or if it's with the Subtles. So let's have a look. Colour Theory. No, it's not Colour Theory, Colour Collection. It's towards the back. Okay, here we go. So when we look in our annual catalogue, towards the back, this is from page 135, we have all of the colour families. So this is the Subtles. So you've got the Highland Heather and the Fresh Freesia in there. And yeah, the Granny Apple Green is in the Brights. So then we've got the Brights, and these are all the colours. There's your Granny Apple Green. We've got the Regals, which is all your rich sort of colours. And then we've got the Neutrals, which is all your sort of earthy tones. And you've got Night of Navy and Blackberry Bliss in there as well. So... and then you've got your in colours as well. The in colour, you can also get them in the markers and the cardstock and the ink pads and everything too. They're not part of the Sale-A-Bration offer though. Okay, they're separate. So we're just dealing with the other ones that have the 10 colours in them. Oh, hi Leslie. Thank you for coming back as well. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for the technical issues that were happening, but Facebook has made some changes, and it's, yeah, can take a while to get used to them, but yeah, mucked a few things up. So okay, so in the color ranges you can get cardstock and ink and the Stampin Write markers and Stampin Blends and 12 by 12 cardstock, and you can get ink refills. You can get designer series paper, which we're going to be using today, and yeah, so everything coordinates beautifully together. Okay. So they're the colours we're going to start with. Let's start with stamping our floral image first. So I'm going to, because I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black to stamp the image. Okay, this is also a water-based ink, as are the markers. The markers are a water-based ink as well. So if you wanted to do watercolouring techniques, then I wouldn't suggest stamping with this. You'd want to be stamping with your Stays On ink if you're wanting to do watercolouring techniques, which I did show watercolouring techniques using the markers on another video a couple of weeks ago, but we're just using this one today because we're just going to do some colouring. All right, so when I use Memento, because it's a felt or linen ink pad and it's quite firm, I like to rub the ink over my surface first, or over the stamp first, and then do a tap, tap, tap to make sure that it's even. Okay, we're going to stamp the flower. I'm just going to stamp it up a little bit towards the top so that I've got room for that twine along the bottom, and then just give a nice firm press, not rocking our stamp, but just firmly down. Hold that there for a moment, let the ink transfer into the cardstock. There we go. All right, and we'll give that a little clean on our Simply Chamois, the best cleaning tool for your water-based inks and water-based markers. Okay, all right, and now to colour that, it's really, really easy. Now there's lots of different ways you can do it. I'm going to do like a two-tone effect. These markers, because they're water-based, they don't blend like the Stampin' Write alcohol-based markers, okay? But you can sort of give a kind of blending effect look with, I'll hold that up closer to the camera because now the camera is so far away from the desk. You can kind of get detail in the stamp by combining a couple of different colours. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so we're going to start with the dark. We are going to go on, Mandy's going to put her glasses on. Hang on a minute. Here we go. All right. We are going to go where all of the line art is around the image. We are just going to go sort of with a little bit of a sketchy kind of a, like I'm not just drawing a line, I'm kind of doing like a little bit of a squiggly sort of sketchy technique in there. Just so you've got a little bit of white space as well. You don't have to fill in all of the detail, okay? A little bit of white space is good because it gives the effect of the light hitting the flower or whatever it is that you're colouring. So a little bit of white space is good. And I'm just going around on the inside of each of those little black sort of squiggly lines. Just doing a little bit of a squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. It looks really messy when you start, okay, but we're going to fill in with colour and it's going to look great. So that's kind of the look that we're going for. We want it to be a little bit sort of sketchy looking. So squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. I mean, you could just draw a line, but I didn't want it to be like a solid line. There you go. Okay, so you've sort of got like a little squiggly, sketchy kind of effect. Okay. Now with the markers, I didn't explain about the markers. The markers are dual tipped. So I was just using the brush tip, okay, and the other end is a bullet tip. Now this one is my old marker, so this is an old bullet tip, but this one, which is the one we're about to use, the Fresh Freesia, is a newer one, and this is the new bullet tip. It's a felt tip rather than a hard tip that we used to have, and this one gives you a lot better control of the colour and a lot better colouring. It lasts longer. So yeah, and then the other end you've still got the brush tip, which we're going to use now. The lids nest together, which is fantastic. So when you're colouring, you can just pop your other lid on there so you don't lose it. So that's another great little feature. Now what we're going to do is where that white space is, we are just going to fill that in with our lighter colour. So in this case, I'm using Fresh Freesia. And again, not necessarily colouring, you know, within the lines. Like if you were colouring a colouring book, for instance, you know, we like to stay in the lines, but we do want to stay within the outside lines. But on the inside, we're kind of doing like a little bit of a scribble, and we're just going over some of that dark colour as well, which helps it to sort of blend in a little bit, even though it doesn't blend fully, but it kind of does blend a little bit, but not like the alcohol markers. And we're just going to fill in all of these areas with the lighter colour. And it gives a really great effect, and it makes the flower sort of have a two-tone effect, so that you've got the light and the shade within the flower. Now, how's the volume? Can you all hear me okay? I did find where that volume enhance setting is, but I am worried to change anything now because I don't want to muck up the whole sound and lose all the sound again. Okay, and then just go over some of those little extra white spaces and fill those in. There we go, and you kind of get that sort of two-tone. We can leave a little bit of white space in there as well. Yes, can still hear me? Thank you, Julie. Fantastic. All right, so there you go. So there you have a quick, easy little technique to fill in a flower like that or an image like that that has lots of detail in it within the actual stamped image. Okay, and then you get that two-tone look, which is really great. Now the leaves are more solid. So what I did with the leaves is I did just go over the whole leaf, but especially focusing on those veins because that's sort of the white space area. But I did just do a little bit of colour just over the main parts of the leaf. Oops, I went out of the lines there a little bit. Oh well, don't worry, doesn't matter. We're not going to worry about that. There we go. And that's as easy as it is. And now that is done. That's coloured. So that was nice and easy, wasn't it? Everyone can do that, right? Is that easier than you thought? Yes? Oh, thanks, Rose. Sound is all good. Thank you. Okay, so that is that part. All right, now we're going to use our markers to stamp our sentiment. Now, we have two types of stamps. There are the red rubber stamps, and there are the, which are the red rubber cling stamps, and the other stamps we have are the photopolymer stamps, which are the clear stamps. This technique that I'm about to show you works best with the red rubber stamps. You can sometimes get away with it with some of the cling stamps, but it depends on the detail in the stamp. Okay, and it depends on the detail in the font. I find this technique, it's called direct marker to stamp technique, and I find this works best with the red rubber. Okay, so let's grab one of our sentiment pieces. Now I'm going to use the Happy Labels Pick a Punch. I'll just close that for the moment. The Happy Labels Pick a Punch. This is actually one of the products that is currently on the additional Sale-A-Bration item list. Here it is here, that you can choose this punch for free when you have a $100 order during Sale-A-Bration. Okay, so this is great. This is a fantastic value to get this for free during Sale-A-Bration, and this is a really great punch. I love these picker punches. So look out for that one when you are shopping and choosing your Sale-A-Bration items. Each of the punches comes with a little button on the back which closes it, holds it closed down flat, so it makes it easy for storage, because then you can stack them all up, or you can stack them on their sides, however you like to store them. To open your punch, you're going to hold it closed with your hands. As you do that, you're going to slide the button with your thumb, slide that back towards you, and then let the springs open and release the punch. Okay, so now it's ready to punch. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to punch, first of all, one end of our sentiment label piece. Now, this one that I'm choosing is sort of like a postage stamp sort of finish around the edges. It's a little bit like these dies, which we're going to be using in a moment. Okay, so it kind of coordinates well with that. So we're going to punch one end first. I've got a little strip here, which is a one inch strip, or 2.55 centimeters. So we're going to slide that in all the way up to the end. Okay, we've got it butted right up against the end, holding the cardstock in place, and then just snip. Now this little piece, don't throw that away. We're going to use that as a template when we're ready to punch our other end. But before we punch the other end, we're going to do our sentiment. Okay, so then we can adjust the length. All right, we're going to take our marker. We're going to use the brush tip, and we're going to colour in this sentiment. Now, if you wanted to have a multicoloured sentiment, this says thank you very much. You might want the thank you in one colour and the so very much in another colour. You can certainly do that. In fact, let's do that this time. Let's do the thank you in the granny apple green, and we're using the brush tip. We're just holding it at like a 45-degree angle. You don't want to do it directly down because you don't want to affect that nice point that you have on your tip. If you go too heavy with your marker, or you use it straight down, you're going to break apart those bristles on the end, and it'll become sort of furry, and you won't get that nice tip. So we're just doing it on a 45-degree angle or thereabouts. We're going to go over that a couple of times, make sure we get plenty of ink laid down, and make sure it's all coloured. There we go. Then I'm going to take my Highland Heather, and I'm going to colour in the so very much. Now on the first card I just did it in one colour, but I wanted to show you this technique of being able to do multiple colours. And you can do this on any of your stamps. You could even, I could have even done that on this stamp, but you would have just got the outline and you wouldn't have the colour on the inside. It would just stamp the outline. But I could have stamped the outline and done it in multiple colours and done the leaves in the green if I wanted to. Oops, I nearly missed the the bottom of the Y there. I don't want to lose the bottom of that. Now you will get a slightly softer sort of finish using your markers this way, but this is a great way too, that if you don't have all of the colours in the ink pads, the markers are a really cost-effective way of getting a whole heap of different colours, because you can use them in lots of different ways. Now what we're going to do, that ink sort of dries a little bit as we're colouring with it, so we need to moisten that ink. We're going to use our warm breath and the moisture in our breath to re-moisten that. So we're going to huff a couple of times onto that stamp. Okay, so I'm just going to huff. It'll fog up your block a little bit, and while that is damp still, we're going to stamp our sentiment. Okay, hold that there for a moment, don't rock it. There we go. All right, look at that. So now we've got a multicolored stamped image. Isn't that clever? All right, so I'll give my stamp a clean. You're going to clean it in the same way because it's water-based ink. So I'm just using water on my Simply Chamois, which I've wrung out, and that's nice and clean now. Let's just test it. Yep, good, clean. Okay. Now, I'm going to use this little piece that I chomped out. I'm going to use that as my guide to work out the distance that I need to cut my cardstock to then be able to punch it to have my sentiment centered in the middle. So let me grab a little pencil. So I'm just using my eye. I mean, I could use my grid paper too. So let's see, we've got about two squares of the grid past the words. So let's go 1, 2, 1, 2. So it'll be about there. So I'm using the straight edge on the side where the sentiment is. It might be a little bit hard for you to see on camera, but I've got the straight edge there. I'm going to use the straight edge as my measure and just put a little pencil mark there. Okay, that is where I'm going to trim my cardstock to that point. Oops, helps if I have my trimmer up the right way. So I'll trim my cardstock to there. And now when I punch, I should get the right, providing I've done that right. Let's see. We'll pop that in there now. We're going to push it all the way up to the end again. Flip it over so you can see where you're lining it up. Make sure that it's all lined up. And punch. It's going to snip out that little bit again. And there we go. We have it fairly centered. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's fairly centered. Okay, so yeah, when you punch your first end, always keep your little offcut to use as your template to work out where you need to trim your cardstock to punch the other end. Okay, I've shown that one a couple of times, but people often, if they haven't seen it before, they're like, oh wow, that's like an amazing little tip. So, oh, thanks Glenda. All right, so we've got our little sentiment piece. Now, what I would like to do with this one, which I didn't do with the first one, but I'm going to use my marker, and this, I might make it a little bit tricky here for myself because we've got these little chomps out of the ends, but I'm going to use the edge of my marker to run along the edge of my cardstock very carefully to give a little border, okay, because we're not matting this onto anything. So I'm just using the side of the bullet tip, not the bullet tip, the, oh my goodness, the brush tip, that's the one. Okay, so just very carefully, I'm trying not to slip as I do this. Whoops, I slipped backwards, but that's okay. And then we're going to go around all the little chomp marks, which, doing this very carefully. Chomp, chomp. I'd love a chomp right now, but I can't eat them. But it sounds nice. There we go. And we'll do the other end. Now just being careful because that ink will be wet. We don't want to smudge it. The ink's around. Oh, my stomach just grumbled. I'm hungry. Had a late breakfast, so I didn't have lunch before I started filming. So apologies if you hear my stomach grumbling. There we go. So now rather than it just be plain white, we've got that nice little border around the edge, which just sort of lifts it a little bit. Just go a bit more here. Just sort of lifts it a little bit and means that you don't kind of need to mount it onto another colour. You can just, yeah, have that as a little bit of a border. Okay, now the next colouring technique we're going to use, we'll set that all aside to dry. The next thing we're going to use is, or do, I should say, is we are going to colour our twine. Did you know that you can colour twine as well? And you can colour ribbon. Now just remember, when you do it with these markers, it takes a little bit more time to dry because it's not an alcohol marker. So with the alcohol markers, it dries very quickly because the alcohol evaporates. When you do it with the Stampin Write markers, because they're water-based, they just take a little bit more time to dry. So what I'm going to do is measure the amount that I'm going to need, and I didn't measure the first one before I went live. I just kind of wrapped it around and then I coloured it before thinking, oh, I probably should have measured that so that I knew how much I would need for the project when we went live, but that's okay. All right, so I'm just going to cut some twine. So this is from the, sorry, I should have shown this one. This is from the Baker's Twine Essentials pack. That's it there. So it comes in 5 colours. You've got the basic white, the very vanilla, basic black, crumb cake, oh sorry, basic beige or crumb cake? I think it's crumb cake. And the basic grey, actually it might be basic beige. No, I think it's crumb cake. And smoky slate. So they all come together in the pack. They're awesome. All right, now I had another scrap here somewhere. Where did I put that now? No, I've done something on top of it. All right, let me grab an extra scrap. Okay, so we're going to use the brush tip again. And we are simply going to hold the twine and just, you do definitely need to have some scrap paper underneath because it is a little bit of a messy technique. Now if you wanted to, if you didn't want the whole twine to wrap all around that layer, you could have just, I could have just done a smaller amount of twine and just done a bow, but I like the effect of the twine wrapped around. Now I do the end there first. And you might get a little bit inky on your fingers, so if you want to wear gloves, you could wear gloves to do this, but I'm not too worried, you know. Crafters with inky fingers is a sign of a happy crafter. So I don't mind if I get a little bit of ink on my fingers. And what I'm doing is, as I'm colouring with, again, the marker on the side, so like 45 degrees, I'm just rolling the twine as I do this to get the ink on all of the sides, all the way around the twine. Okay, and then we can go back over any bits that might be a little bit patchy. And if it is a little bit patchy, it doesn't matter too much because it adds to the effect and it makes it look more rustic. And I really like that look. So has anybody done this technique before? Has anybody used their Stampin' Write markers to colour twine or ribbon? Let me know in the comments if you've done this before. Maybe this is a technique that you've used before. This might not be new to some of you. There we go. So as we get one section coloured, we just move that along. And I do have quite a long length of twine for this one, so it just takes a few minutes. It's just, you just have to be patient as you do this. But it's this is another good thing that you can do in front of the TV if you've got like a little lap table or a desk or something that you can put, that you can set up, or a coffee table maybe that you can sit, and you do need a firm surface of course to set your twine down on. If you're using an ink pad, you can also colour your twine with an ink pad. It's a little bit messier even than this, but you can do it. Or if you have the re-inkers, you can do that as well. What you can do is you can put the re-inkers into a Ziploc bag, and add your twine in. Add your twine into the Ziploc bag and then add a few drops of the re-inker into the bag and then just smush it, zip it up and then smush it around with your hands. But then you would need to let it dry because it will absorb quite a bit of ink. So then you just need to allow that to dry before you use it on your projects. Oh, you use the blends for colouring ribbon, Glenda? Yeah, that's a great technique, isn't it? And the blends do dry very quickly. So we do have blends in the coordinating colours. So if you wanted to use your blends for this, you do have the same, you have the option of having the same colours to coordinate. So we're going to also be using the Designer Series paper in the colour families today, and that's going to coordinate with the markers that we're using as well. So I love that, and the cardstock as well, that matches too. So I love that all of the Stampin' Up products coordinate, makes our crafting so much easier when everything coordinates. I remember back in the day before I was with Stampin' Up, I would go to the craft store to try and find cardstock, for instance, to match paper that I already had. And it would be so hard to get the right colours to match. Yeah, and sometimes you just couldn't find, like you'd find some nice pattern paper, but then there'd be no cardstock to match the beautiful pattern paper. So it was, yeah, you couldn't sort of use it easily. But with the Stampin' Up products, everything coordinates, so makes it so much easier. I love that. So I'm also, as I said, this takes a little bit of time, but I wanted to do it now so that it could dry while we do some of the other steps. You can dry it with my sample project. I was trying to get that finished quickly for you, and I did dry the twine with my my heat tool, but I didn't quite dry it enough. It was just still a little bit damp when I used it, but I thought if we do it now at this point, then we can go on to do some of the rest of the card, and then we can come back and add this, and hopefully it will be dry by then. Have I ever refilled my markers? No, I have not, Glenda. It's not something that Stampin' Up recommends, and there's a few reasons why. That's one of them, but also too because the ink in the markers, once it's the same ink as what's in the ink pads and the refills apparently. That's just going by what people have said. I haven't had that confirmed from Stampin' Up, so don't take my word for it. That's just what I've heard. But if your marker has already started to dry out and it already has, but it also already, like it still already has some ink in there, if you're adding ink from the ink refill, and depending on how much ink you add, you might not get the right ratio. So therefore the colour might be different to the original marker. Like, so it might not actually be true to colour. Yeah, so that's why I kind of haven't done it, because I want it to be true to the colour so that everything coordinates. Yeah, so that's not something, and as I said, it's not something that Stampin' Up recommends, so I thought, well, if they recommend not to refill them, then there must be a reason. So yeah, that's why I haven't done it. But good question. I know of people that have done it. I'm not sure of how the colours turned out for them, but yeah, it's not something I've tried. So just going back over some of these spots that were a little bit lighter, but again, as I said, doesn't matter if you've got a little bit of light and shade in there. There we go. Okay, so that's done. So how inky did I get? Oh, okay, I got a little bit inky, but that's not too bad considering I have just coloured. I don't know how many centimetres that was. Let's see how many centimetres. That's 25. That's 50. 58 centimeters of twine I've just coloured, and I only got that little bit of ink, which I think that's not too bad considering. So there you go. But yeah, you can wear gloves if you don't want to get inky. You can wear gloves. I'm sorry that you're seeing the ugly side of the the background and the tabletop. I still haven't put on my new background onto my desk. I've got one that will fill a wider space. But we keep on being busy using the desk, and so I just haven't had the opportunity to do it. All right, so let's set all of that over there to the side. I'm going to actually move the card out of the way so that I don't get ink on it. All right, so that's all of our colouring pieces. Now let's move on to the construction of the actual card. Okay, let's start with our card base. I'll just move my ink over there. All right, so I have got a card base of Gorgeous Grape. I was just trying to think which one did I go with. I went with Gorgeous Grape. Now, have I just frozen? I feel like, wait a sec. All right, I think everything froze there for a moment. Am I back? Oh, yeah, Glenda says, I've seen a few demos doing it, but I'm not going to pull the end out of my marker. Well, that's the other thing too, Glenda. If you start pulling at this nib, it's, you know, you have the potential of ruining it. You could damage it as you do it, and then your marker is wrecked anyway. So, yeah, that's another reason why not to do it. Okay, am I back? We've had some storms this morning, earlier this morning actually, and we were wondering if the weather was going to play havoc with the live feed. But just let me know if I am back. It looked like it did freeze there for a moment, but my computer is still frozen, but the iPad is working. So let me just do a refresh over here on my computer. Oh, okay, looks like I'm back. Good. All right, might have just been my devices too. Okay, so we have a piece of Gorgeous Grape. It is a full length of 12 A4. Oh, thanks, Julie. Which is 29.7 centimeters long. I've cut it at 10.5 centimeters wide. So basically, I've taken an A4 sheet, and that was the full A4 sheet, and I've just cut it in half at 10.5 centimeters. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to take our scoring blade. So we'll move away our cutting blade, which is the dark one. We're going to use our scoring blade, which is the light grey. We're going to score this at 14.85, which is half. Okay. And then we're going to score again at just a smidge over 7.4. Okay, so we've got 7.4 and then just go a smidge over 7.4. It's actually 7.425 if you want to be exact. All right, and this is going to be the base for our fun fold card. So then we're going to fold that towards the mountain fold. The mountain fold's on the inside. Okay, we're going to get our bone folder and we're going to burnish. And why is that pausing again? Hang on a sec. Okay, looks like it's still going on my phone, but on my iPad it is freezing. So I don't know if that's just my iPad. It could be our internet playing up because of the storms earlier. Okay, that's all good. All right, so we folded the card in half that way, and then we're going to open it back out, and where we scored that extra fold, we're also going to fold that in towards the middle, okay? And then we're going to burnish that with our bone folder, so that when you're making your fun fold card, your easel card, it's going to stand up like that, okay? Now sometimes you might need to burnish this one, the middle fold, a couple of times to make sure that that's going to sit up, okay? Good. So that's our base. Then we have two pieces of, it's all about pieces here. So the Designer Series paper that we're using today is the Colour Family's Designer Series paper. The Designer Series paper is available in each of the colour families or colour collections, and there's 40 sheets in each pack. Today I'm using the Subtles and the Regals, and they coordinate with the markers beautifully. So the colour families come in the markers as well, so you can coordinate your papers beautifully together, as well as your cardstock as well, of course, too, and all your ink pads and all the rest of it. Okay, so we're going to take some of this Designer Series paper. I've already cut this in preparation, and we're just going to add that to those front panels of our card base, and I'm just using the multi-purpose liquid glue to adhere that. So we'll just add that there. We'll add each of those panels. So there's the top one. So just line that up with a nice 2mm border around the edges on the upper panel. Okay, that's nice and adhered, and we'll add our glue to the second one and just apply it in the same way. So the multi-purpose liquid glue is great for this because it gives you that wiggle time, or that wiggle space, just to slide your paper around and line that up so that you get a nice even border. Just gives you a bit more time rather than the drier adhesives. So just press that down. There we go. Okay, so let me just check this on the computer. I'll just move my keyboard out of the way, and yeah, all good. Okay. All right. So that's the front of the card. Now on the inside, we're going to add our insert. Okay, hang on a sec. Okay, so the sound was being a little bit of an issue here. So I was just sorting that out. Trying a few different things just to try and get the sound working again, and all was good. Okay, we'll go on. I'm going to use a dry adhesive, so I'm using the Stampin' Seal for the insert, just because I find sometimes on the white cardstock inserts that you can sort of see the glue a little bit bumpy through it, so, and I don't like that look, so I like to use a dry adhesive on my insert. So we're just putting that inside the card. So just lining that up again with that 2mm border again. Smooth that down. All good. And then for this little piece, this is just another piece of the Designer Series paper from the same pack, and we're just going to add that across the bottom of that insert just for an extra little accent on the card. So just use the multi-purpose liquid glue in the same way, and again that will help us to line that up right where we want it. So just adhere that down, give it a little wiggle and line it up. That's the beauty of the multi-purpose liquid glue. Press that down, and all good. Remove the fluff and bits and pieces. Always make sure that you do cap your glue in between uses, just so that it doesn't dry out on the tip. Okay, so that is going to be where the easel part is going to sit on, and then on the back there you can add your sentiment stamp, but it's a good idea, sorry, not your sentiment stamp, your Handmade by stamp, but it's a good idea to do that before we add any extra layers onto the card. So we're going to just do that for this part. For this stamp, I'm just going to do it quick and easy. You could use the markers again for that, just in the same way that we did with the sentiment, but just to make it quicker and easier, I'm just going to use the ink pad this time. So just check it, because I haven't used it before. It's a brand new stamp. and we're just going to stamp that on the bottom there, line it up. There we go. So I'm doing tone on tone, so same color ink on the same color card base. Okay, we'll just give that a clean with our chamois. Always a good idea to clean your stamps straight away, and then check that you've got all the ink off them and just dry them a little bit there on the paper. And then we're going to use our Stampin Write marker to write our name. So it will be handmade by, and whatever your name is, just write that there with the fine tip of the marker. Now my pen that I've used there is the old style. So the newer style is a slightly thicker tip. Okay, so we'll just put the adhesive out of the way, and we'll move on to the next layer. Now with this Granny Apple Green, we're going to die cut that. We're using the Perennial Postage dies. I'll just hold that up so you can see the label there. So we've got lots of beautiful sizes there, lots of different shapes, and we're just going to use the second largest to die cut the Granny Apple Green. So I'll just move everything out of the way. We're going to use the big Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine for this. This die is just a little bit wide to fit through the mini, because we want to put it on a slight angle when we put it through the machine, so that we don't get that speed bump. And with the mini, it's just a little, it'll fit on the plates going through straight, but then you'll get that big speed bump. So we're going to use the, so just that straight edge there. And we're going to feed that through at an angle, not straight, so that we don't get that speed bump, and it helps the machine to feed it through much more easily. Okay, so line that all up and just take that through the machine. And we don't get that big pop at the end because we've got that die on an angle. So you should do that with any die that has a straight edge like we have here. And then we're just going to pop that out of the die, and we've got that lovely die cut shape. Okay, put our plates out of the way and our machine out of the way. Okay, so I'll just put the die back away and getting ready to use this layer here. Okay, so we're going to use another piece of the Designer Series paper, and this is in the Gorgeous Grape. So this is from the Regals pack, and we're going to use the striped images on the other side. So I've already pre-die cut this, and all the measurements again will be on my blog when I upload that. And so we're just going to pop that down on the Perennial Postage die, line that up. Again, we've got about a 2mm border. 2mm borders are usually my go-to size borders. Okay, so now we're going to line that up on the card base, but we're going to flip it over upside down so we can see where we want to put our Stampin' Dimensionals, so that we can pop that up. But we want to make sure that the dimensionals don't go beyond that halfway mark there, that scored section. We just want the dimensionals in that bottom section. Okay, so just pick up our dimensionals, line this back up again, and just make sure that we're placing the dimensionals lower than that halfway point, so that they're not going to be above that score line or that fold in the card, in the easel card. And then we're just going to remove the backings. I'm just using my take a pick tool, or the pokey end, as I like to call it. It's a paper piercing tool. All right, and then we'll just turn that over. Make sure that those dimensionals are going to sit in that bottom portion and line that up. There we go, press it on. And then you can see now that we can't see any of those dimensionals. So I always like to do a check just to make sure that we can't see them, make sure we've got them down low enough. So in that bottom section there, and then just press them on once you're sure that that's in the right spot. Okay, so it makes sort of like a little triangle there. Okay, it's going to sit against that designer series paper on the bottom, but we're going to need to make a bit of a stopper. So that's what we're going to use our sentiment label for. So we're going to add that onto there. We're going to pop some dimensionals onto the back of our label just to sit that up a little bit higher, just to make that stopper for the easel part of the card. Okay, so just remove those backings. And we're going to line this up with the top edge there of the designer series paper. So the top edge of the sentiment with the top edge of the paper, and of course centered side to side. There we go, and then that creates our little stopper for our easel card. Okay. So there we go. So then you can see the 3 different types of designer series paper there from the same paper pack, and they are, yeah, just beautifully contrast. All right, now with the twine, we're going to wrap that around our card about 3 times, and then we're going to tie a bow. Now, usually I would allow the twine to dry, or dry it with your, on the cool setting, the number 1 setting of your heat tool, just to make sure that that ink has dried properly on the twine before you wrap it around your card. Mine wasn't quite dry, so I just didn't have it quite long enough on one end, so just redoing that there, just retying that there, and then got to wrap it around an extra time. Bring it back around, bit fingers, all fingers and thumbs there, just trying to get that right, and then tie your bow. Tie your bow. It's always a bit hard to tie a bow when you're filming. Oops, I pulled my ends through a little bit too far just there, so try and pull those back. No, it's getting a bit snagged. I'll have to retie that. Let's try that again. Just grab hold of those ends. I probably could have given myself a little bit of extra length on the baker's twine there to make it a bit more easy for myself to tie that bow. But we got there in the end, so it's all good. There we go. Okay. And then you can just fiddle with your bow until you're happy with it, and then spread out the side parts where it wraps around your sentiment. Yeah, so use the heat tool on heat setting number 1 to dry your baker's twine before you apply it to, so just demonstrating here, giving it a quick little dry on the card. Normally I would dry it before I put it on the card, just so that it doesn't bow the card as well. But just giving it a very quick little dry here before I put it on the front of the card, just with the heat tool. It is bowing the card up just a little bit, but not too bad. And we're going to adhere that with the Stampin' Dimensional, so hopefully that will just flatten that out when we adhere that. Okay, so it's a little bit drier. Just adjust the bow and trim it up. Now I like to separate the ends of my twine, and one end had already sort of frayed as I was colouring it anyway, so I'm just unravelling the individual threads on the other side, just to sort of make them even with the side that it had already unravelled. It just gives a bit of extra texture as well. So clean the ink off my hands from the twine, and we are just about ready to put this on to the card front. So just tweaking those little threads there, making sure they're sitting nicely, getting them adjusted. Okay, so we're going to add some Stampin' Dimensionals now, and because there's only a small amount of space at the bottom of this piece between the twine and the bottom of that layer, I'm just going to use the mini Stampin' Dimensionals along there. Okay, so we'll use some minis there, and then I'll just grab my regular dimensionals for the top part up there. So they are the same height, the dimensionals. It's just that you've got the small and the regulars just because of the size, not the height. They're the same height. Okay, so remove those backings. The little mini ones are always a bit more tricky to get the backings off because they're so small. Okay, and then we're going to add that to the front of our card. So we'll just close our card back down again. We're going to add it to the center there. And line that up again with our even border around the edges as best as we can. Press that on. And then you've got the dimension there with it being popped up on the Stampin' Dimensionals. Okay, so now we're going to add some of these beautiful Drucy adhesive backed embellishments. These are stunning. They're so sparkly and shiny. They're really beautiful. So we're going to add a large one up in the top corner there, or just in from the corner, and then a small one diagonally opposite that one. Then we're going to use another small one, and we're going to add that down below the flower there, just offset from the other two, so that we've got that triangle or that those three embellishments. So there we go. So you can sit up like that. There's both of the cards there. So you can see the original one just with the one color sentiment. So you can see how it sits up like that up against the sentiment, and then it lays down flat. We've got the sentiment, the handmade by on the back. And yeah, it's turned out really well. And then with this one is just the single color of the sentiment, and there you go. So hopefully you enjoyed that. So I wanted to show you this other technique as well that you can use with the markers, the Stampin' Write markers, just very quickly. We won't make a complete card with this one right now, but I'm going to show you very quickly how you can use your Stampin' Write markers for another technique called the smooshing technique. And it's very, very easy, but it's another way that you can easily color your, or at least add color, I should say, to your stamped images. So we're going to use our Stampin' Write markers, and we're going to use a water spritzer. We just have water in this spritzer, and they come in a 2-pack. They come obviously empty in a 2-pack. You just fill them up with water. Okay, so we're going to start with our Fresh Freesia. So this is the Fresh Freesia Stampin' Write marker. And we're going to use the brush tip. We're just going to scribble a little bit of Fresh Freesia on the center of the block there. Then we're taking our Highland Heather Stampin' Write marker, and we're going to just go around the outside of the lighter color, just so we've got the light and the shade there happening in those colors. And then with the Granny Apple Green, we're going to add a little bit to the bottom for the leaves and kind of the grass as well. Okay, so you can see the color there on the block. It's a bit hard to see, but we're going to take the water spritzer and we're going to stamp it 2 to 3 times, depending on how much water spritzes out and how well you are at directing the water. So we'll do 1, 2, 3. Rotate the block a little bit to let that color run, and let the 3 colors sort of run into each other a little bit. Now I'm using thick basic white cardstock here. Turn the block over, press it down into the paper. Just hold it there for a moment. I probably could have added a little bit more water down towards where the green is and lift it off, and there you've got the smooshed colors. Now we're going to dry this piece a little bit with the number 1 setting on our heat tool. to just dry that water off before we stamp our image. Otherwise, because the ink with the memento is water-based as well, if we stamped it straight on now, that black ink would actually bleed. So we need to make sure that this layer is all dry before we stamp our black ink over the top. So flip the cardstock over and heat it from the opposite side as well, the underside or the back side, so that that helps to dry it, and it also helps to uncurl the cardstock. As you'll find as you start to heat one side, the cardstock will start to curl, but if you flip it over and heat it from the other side, then it will uncurl it. It's just how the cardstock reacts to the heat. Okay, so we want to make sure that this is all nice and dry. Again, only using the number 1 setting on your heat tool so that you don't scorch your cardstock. Now we do have tweezers that you can use to hold your cardstock here, but because I was only basically heating the center of the card, I was staying away from my fingers, but trying to be a bit careful too. Oops. And you'll notice that I'm not heating it down on the desk, just so that I don't heat up my background that is down on my desktop. Okay, I think that is pretty good. So we're going to take our memento ink. So just double check that, have a feel, and just see if that feels dry enough. And then use the memento tuxedo black. We're going to rub the ink over the surface first and then tap, tap, tap a few times to get a nice even surface, and then we're simply going to stamp that over the ink, and it gives you a watercolor sort of background look. And there you go, you have your image colored. So there you go. So I'll create a card with those later and show you the difference, and you can see how you then have got 2 options of coloring your stamped image, and you can use them on the same layout of the card, on the easel card. So nice and easy. So I hope that's given you a couple of different ideas. So let's bring in our cards and our 2 pieces. One I coloured earlier. We've got our markers, our water spritzers, and there you go. There you have. So I hope you enjoyed that today. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being here today. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Happy crafting, everyone.